Michael Coren was a very public defender of the Roman Catholic Church, but when his views changed, so did his religion. In his own words, quote, "I felt like a hypocrite." Joining us now for more on his transformation and the price he thinks he's paying for it, journalist and author Michael Coren. And it's always a delight to have you back at TVO. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm a big boy. I can take a bit of criticism, personal attacks, viciousness and firing. I can take it all, Steve.
Well, I hope so, because you have been. Let's, just before we get too far into this, for old time's sake, here's a clip of you and me from 3 years ago on this very program. Watch the monitor over my shoulder.
Do I have to?
Sheldon, you do have to. Roll the clip, please. Christians, it could be argued, seem obsessed with homosexuality these days. How come?
Are you asking me out for a date, Steve?
I am not.
You know my wife. She's very lovely.
But, Michael, the night is young. Let's see. Let's see how we do.
You see, interesting, because I don't really talk about that in the book as such, but it's a valid question. I believe it's other people who are obsessed with this issue. I don't hear it discussed very often within the Christian community. You're talking about 2 or 3% of the population. It tends to be the issue of gay marriage. No one should be bullied for what they are or who they are, and people should be treated as equals. But the Christian position is that I believe it's scientific too, that if at all possible, a child should have a male and a female role model. And for the first time in human history, to deliberately create units where there will not be a role model from both genders, I don't think it's constructive. I think gay people have to have utter equality in terms of civil rights, housing, employment, inheritance, and so on, protection under law. But I believe marriage is a union of one man and one woman.
Are you on the losing side of this argument?
Yes, probably.
Yes. That was Michael Coren in 2012, and here's what he wrote last summer. "I'm still regarded by many in the gay community as an enemy, and I understand that reaction. I have said and written things in the past that, while never intentionally hateful, caused offense and pain. This isn't necessarily relevant in that truth cannot change according to response, but I could and would not say such things any longer. I was wrong." How did you get from the Michael Coren of 2012 to the Michael Coren who wrote that?
That wasn't me, but that's someone who looks just like me. But
Nice try.
It was a gradual process. I think for some time I'd been defending the Christian position, or the Orthodox Christian position, the conservative Christian position on marriage, maybe reluctantly and maybe with qualification. Perhaps you could even see it in that interview. But the great watershed for me was really Uganda and its profoundly homophobic stance, which at one point they were even contemplating making homosexuality itself a capital offense. You could be executed for simply being gay. And then John Baird, our former foreign minister, spoke out against some of what Uganda was doing. And John was a great defender of the Christian community. He was very good at that. I don't think John's a Christian. I've never really asked him that, but he spoke out in support of persecuted Christians. He dared to say that Uganda shouldn't be behaving like this, and he became a victim of the most incredible attacks from conservative Christians. And I thought it was outrageous. So I went to bat for him, not that he needed me, but I went to bat for him. And a door opened, and I think I realized how much anger, and I'm sorry, but how much hatred there was out there. It's one thing to, for example, oppose marriage equality, oppose same-sex marriage out of defense of the sacramental nature of marriage. I may not agree with that, but I understand it. But it's another to be motivated by a fear or hatred of a particular people. And I saw that in huge numbers, and it pushed me further and further. And the more I spoke out, the more I was attacked. The more I realized that I'd got it wrong. And then I began to meet with a number of people in the gay community. I'd always known gay people, for goodness sake, gay friends, but really within the community itself. And I saw I'm not being absurdly romantic here, but I saw a grace and a forgiveness and an understanding and a new idea of marriage that I found to be quite wonderful. And gradually my position changed, evolved, until I wrote that article, where I didn't come out in favor of same-sex marriage, by the way. I was quite careful not to. But just called for a new conversation. That was about a year and a bit ago.
But you have since then.
I have, but after that was when the attacks on me started. Then I realized, my golly, this is not about a civilized conversation. This is about hatred.
There are a lot of people, though, who change their mind without changing their religion.
Yeah.
You felt you had to do both. How come?
Well, look, I worshipped as an Anglican. Now, I mean, I don't think I've changed my religion. I mean, people have attacked me for this. I was raised in a very secular home with a Jewish father who didn't favor any organized faith at all. I became a Christian in 1984, and I've remained a Christian, mainly as a Catholic. For a few years I worshipped outside of the church and then came back into it. I regard myself in a way as a Catholic now. Many people will argue with that, but I'm an Anglo-Catholic. I believe in sacramental theology and the Eucharist. But I felt I was being unfair to the Roman Catholic Church with my new positions, new ideas, to worship in a Catholic church. I didn't think I could kneel there and receive communion at a Catholic church, believing what I did. It was wrong of me to do it. So I privately worshipped as an Anglican, and I thought that was all fine. I was certainly happy, my faith was deeper, but then it was sort of made public. So I changed the place I worship, if you like, change my religion. I mean, I find that a bit clinical, a bit harsh, but okay, I can accept that, because and I'm not painting me as I'm not a noble person, but I thought I was a hypocrite to do otherwise.
You've changed your position quite publicly on same-sex marriage. I wonder whether you have changed any other positions, abortion, capital punishment, euthanasia, you know, all the hot-button items. Have you?
Well, I always oppose the death penalty. I've never changed from that, and I've always been an opponent. On abortion, on this show as well, I'm not sure if it was that interview or not, but you asked me if abortion should be illegal, and I said absolutely not.
Right.
And I was attacked for that. I believe there is no conversation taking place. Abortion is never desirable. But look, there's a case right now of a 10-year-old girl in Paraguay who was raped by her stepfather. That girl should have an abortion. It is so horrible, grotesque to think a 10-year-old girl, a rape victim, should be forced to have that child. Abortion is illegal in that country unless the life of the mother is in danger. The doctors have said she's not in danger. I think that's not completely genuine. I came out, I wrote a piece saying abortion has to be discussed. It's not merely tissue. There are many profound questions of life here, the sanctity of life, but at the same time, you cannot outlaw. How do we get rid of abortion? How do we minimize empowerment of women, availability of contraceptives, eradication of poverty, sex education? But many of those aspirations are anathema to the so-called pro-life community.
Father Raymond de Souza, who occasionally writes in the National Post.
Weekly.
Are you friends?
I thought it was. I thought it was a friend. I've known him for many years.
Well,
and
let me read what he wrote about you recently, and then you can tell me whether you think you still are. Sheldon, if you would. Still, it remains remarkable that Coren, universally admired as a straight shooter, kept his conversion secret for more than a year. Publicly, he was still the great Catholic apologist, which gave added impact to his inter alia endorsement of Ontario's sex ed curriculum. He continued selling his Catholic books and accepting paid speaking engagements from Catholic audiences, not mentioning that he was no longer who he had presented himself to be. Response?
Well, I should be arrested and flogged. Actually, I should be brought before the Inquisition.
Better response?
You know, there's this obsession that somehow I was speaking every 2 days for huge amounts of money and saying, hi, I'm a Roman Catholic. There's probably been half a dozen speeches or so in the period between my change, and believe me, for not much money. I challenge anyone to look at one of my speeches and say, he said he was a Roman Catholic. I spoke about unconditional love. I based those speeches actually around the relationship between my niece, who's profoundly autistic, and my late father after he had his stroke, and how this bond formed, this bond of love between a handicapped girl and a broken man. And I related this to the life of Christ. I spoke as a Christian. I never gave people Roman Catholic theology. I didn't think it would be fair.
So he's overdoing it here.
He's not the only one. There are just errors in that piece. I mean, I think he said in it that I resigned my columns in Catholic newspapers. I didn't do that. I was fired from all of them. It just seemed it's trying to attribute base motive to someone who, again, I'm not painting myself as some hero here, but who has tried to work out a new theology and a new way of living. I have no ambition. I'm 56 years old. I'm near the end now. I'm not ambitious for anything. I just want to be the best person I can. And I don't understand why some people see that as a threat.
Well, because I don't know either, but let me suggest something. Through your television show, which you used to have on Crossroads Television and then more recently on Sun TV before its demise, you dished it out pretty good.
Sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of times. And maybe some people think, you know, it's about time you got your comeuppance, and here's, you know, you've kind of handed them a potential opportunity on a silver platter here.
Well, on the show on CTS, you won it a couple of times. That was a very balanced show. It was a panel discussion show. On Sun, there were, I mean, don't confuse me with other people maybe on Sun News. If you look at what I did, a lot of the time I tried to be very fair, but I think there were occasions when I went too far. But if you look back the past 2 years, it wasn't quite like that. The first 2 years, yeah, sometimes, but I don't think I actually went after people on a personal level. I never said things that were untrue. If I had, I would have been, I suppose, sued.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But it wasn't. This is going to sound awfully self-serving here, so forgive me. But your old television show was not a balanced show in the way that I hope this program is a balanced program. You were opinionated as hell on that program.
I would certainly say the one on Sun News was nothing like this show. And what I wanted to do on Sun was to replicate the CTS show. By the way, that station's got rid of me as well because of my position on marriage equality.
That just happened, didn't it?
That happened a couple of days ago. But I would agree. I mean, it was never, here's the totally neutral host. It was a host with an opinion, but who would allow... I mean, you know, Sid Ryan was on every single week. I mean, I had Kathleen Wynne was on every 2 weeks. I mean, we had lots of people on the left, and they enjoyed coming on, but they knew I had an opinion.
Michael, when you're a public person, is it hard to change your mind in public?
Yeah, it is. Maybe that's one of the reasons I did it in private. I didn't do it for any sinister reason. I just thought religion in some ways is a bit like sex. You know, keep it private, please. That's the Englishman speaking. Yeah, I didn't know it would be this... Look, when I say difficult, we live in a wonderful, free, open country. No one's coming to knock the door down and take me away. I don't mind losing columns and TV staff. I pretty much expected most of that, not all of it. The attacks, though, have gone too far.
What kind of attacks?
Trolling my children's Facebook pages, accusing me of being unfaithful to my wife, accusing my our oldest daughter of being gay. In that Lucy lives with her boyfriend in Paris and works in theatre, being gay would probably be an advantage, frankly. But, I mean, she's not. I mean, but it's meant to be, this is why he did it, saying that I'm gay, my gay lover was threatening to out me, that I'm bipolar, which shouldn't be an accusation, by the way, but it is, that I've had a stroke. I mean, and I'm, look, one or two people in the basement, that doesn't matter. I'm speaking of a lot of people saying this. An editor of a newspaper received 10 separate phone calls and emails saying, you should know Michael Coren is having an affair. I'm way too ugly to have an affair, Steve.
But do you think there's some kind of orchestrated conspiracy to, practice the politics of personal destruction against you?
No, I wouldn't use conspiracy. That sounds, that's over the top. But, there's definitely a campaign. I mean, I've seen it in writing.
Orchestrated by whom?
Well, for example, I wrote a piece, the Prairie Messenger, which is a Catholic paper for Western Canada, which has a very strong liberal social justice tradition, asked me to write a column after all this was happening. They said, we love what you write. Will you write for us? I said, of course I would. And I began. And the first column, which said that 10-year-old girl should be allowed to have an abortion, there was a concerted campaign by LifeSite, it's a allegedly pro-life organization. At the bottom of the column about me, write to these people. These are the people to write to. And it worked. That the poor woman whose editor said there's too much pressure.
If other public figures change their minds on issues like we've been talking about, same-sex marriage, the tiniest crack in the door on abortion, as you have now allowed, do you think they would have been as vilified as you have been?
It's a good question. I'm not
In other
sure.
words, is there something about you?
There probably is that I'm not aware of. I mean, remember, I'm still a religious fanatic. You know, I believe that there is one God. I believe in the virgin birth, that Jesus is the Messiah. I mean, I believe in the afterlife. I say the creed with complete integrity. So it's not as though I haven't put on the issue of marriage equality. By the way, not in spite of my faith, because of my faith. As my faith deepened, that's why I embraced this. That is why. It could be, look, I don't think I'm a particularly bad person, and people who actually know me at Gentle Sam, rather a nice person. But I think people don't change their views. I think we've rather reduced and minimized public discourse where views have to remain static. And why? We evolve. We're all on a pilgrimage. We get older. We have a different life experience. I'll always be a Tottenham supporter. I could never support Arsenal. Some things are impossible, as you would know, to grasp. But I don't know. I can't answer that question. Maybe there is a certain perception. I would think, though, anyone with a strong opinion in public life who changed their mind on an issue that as controversial or personal or emotive as marriage equality, I think that would probably provoke a strong reaction.
Well, I'm guessing here, but the difference is that, you remember the famous line by John Maynard Keynes, when the facts change, I change my views, what do you do, sir? The facts haven't changed on marriage. I mean,
I have.
You have,
yeah.
Right. And I guess people from your former avocation don't like the fact that, as far as they're concerned, the facts haven't changed. It's you who have changed. Mm-hmm. Have you been embraced by more progressive elements as you have lost some of the support that you used to have among social conservatives?
Well, I don't have people from, I don't know, the CBC or the Toronto Star coming to me saying, we demand that you do a show for us, nothing like that. I have experienced the most incredible grace and forgiveness from many members of the gay community. I thought there'd be a bit of, well, you've left it too long. I wouldn't really care. But no, I mean, overwhelmingly, invariably, it's been quite lovely. Yes, it is I who have changed. There are many Christians, many Christians, including conservative Christians, who have written to me to say, I fully understand, I'm with you, but for those other people, they can ignore me, perhaps be a bit angry with me. What I don't understand is the anger. It's not a betrayal to move this position. An anger at someone who is still a very devout Christian, who merely thinks that the public face of love and the devotion of two people from whatever background, whatever sexuality, to one another, that is God at work. That two people who have decided to spend their lives together, to die together, to look after one another in old age, that cannot be something which is ungodly. That has to be of God. I know all the arguments. I wrote a lot of them. I understand the sacramental nature. I understand the natural law and procreative nature of the argument. But I reject it now. It is not... Why is that so incredibly revolutionary? It doesn't make me a hero, but it doesn't make me a devil either.
Michael, thank you for this.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.